The Roman and Jewish authorities would have only had to visit the tomb and view the corpse, and the misunderstanding was over. Let me provide 3 reasons why we can be confident that Jesus' tomb was empty. First is the Jerusalem factor. Jesus was publicly executed and buried in Jerusalem, and then his resurrection was proclaimed there publicly. So it would have been impossible for Christianity to get off the ground in Jerusalem if his body was still in the tomb. The Roman and Jewish authorities would have only had to visit the tomb and view the corpse, and the misunderstanding was over. There is no evidence that this occurred. In fact, the response of the Jewish leadership was quite different. And that leads us to my second reason. The Jewish leaders were reporting that the disciples of Jesus had stolen the body. This is reported by Justin Martyr and Tertullian, corroborating, these are outside reports corroborating a similar report by Matthew. And it seems to be an attempt to account for a missing corpse. I mean, it's just like the 10-year-old who tells his teacher that the dog ate his homework. You wouldn't say this if you had it to turn in. And likewise, you wouldn't claim that the disciples of Jesus had stolen his body if it was still in the tomb. This information from unsympathetic reports is very powerful in eyes of historians. Paul Meyer, distinguished professor of ancient history at Western Michigan University, states the following: Jewish polemics shared with Christians the conviction that the sepulcher was empty, but gave natural explanations for it. And such positive evidence within a hostile source is the strongest kind of evidence. The third reason we can be confident about the empty tomb is because the claim of resurrection infers an empty tomb. What did I do there? Okay, it infers an empty tomb. The first Christians were Jews, and Jews held a variety of views regarding the afterlife. There were the Sadducees, who didn't believe in life after death. Rather, they held that when you died, that was it, no heaven. So they were sad, you see. Other Jews, like Josephus and Herod, held to a form of reincarnation. But the majority of Jews held that the body that dies is the same body that is raised and transformed into an immortal body. They called this resurrection. We see this in Isaiah, who writes, "Your dead will come back to life. Your corpses will rise up. Wake up and shout joyfully, you who live in the ground." Now, this is all important because it helps us understand what the early Christians meant when they claimed that Jesus had been resurrected. They meant that the body that dies is the same body that is raised and transformed into an immortal, glorious, and powerful body that will never break down. And so, of course, this infers an empty tomb when they're saying that Jesus was resurrected. And you see, if he wasn't resurrected, and yet they still saw him in some sort of a spiritual or ethereal, ghostly kind of state, they could have said that Jesus was somehow still alive, as Jesus himself had said, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were still living. But they would not have said resurrection, a term that referred to bringing the corpse back to life. So we discover that there's good evidence for the empty tomb. The Jerusalem factor, it's witnessed by Jesus' enemies, and the claim of resurrection infers an empty tomb. The historical Jesus scholar Geza Vermesh, who rejects the resurrection, writes the following: "When every argument has been considered and weighed, the only conclusion acceptable to the historian must be that the women who set out to pay their last respects to Jesus found to their consternation not a body, but an empty tomb."